Hello and welcome to our lesson on the French Revolution. One of the really more important stories in global history, certainly in Western history for sure. Last week we did the American Revolution.
Yeah.
Again, a similar moment, a liberal revolution, a revolution based on the notion of equality and rights, as the French Revolution is very much in that same vein. This is a very controversial one, the French Revolution, because of course it turns towards what becomes known as the Terror. Becomes an authoritarian government, not a liberal democratic government at all.
Yeah.
So very, very complex story. In fact,
Right.
we had just had an interesting discussion whether this is an event or not. And of course, the French Revolution defies being an
Right.
event precisely because it is such a complex series
Yeah.
of stories.
And just for clarity, this was behind the scenes.
Oh,
Not
right. Sorry, yes. You missed this.
So it was very lively.
Yeah. Blood was flowing for a moment.
Well, but to put that in some context, you have some experience as a student yourself
Yeah.
in recognizing and studying the complexity of this whole series of events, this story, the French Revolution.
Right. So in our department here at Brock, you can take a series of courses by Professor MacLeod on the French Revolution,
Right.
focuses on French Revolutionary history. But as an undergraduate, I took a course, a fourth-year seminar course on the year two. That all we looked at was the year two of the Revolution.
Just year two,
Not
not year three or year one.
Not year. So during the Revolution, they reinvent the calendar. They begin the calendar at year. This is year one of the future, and we did our course on year two.
Wow.
So we looked at the Terror, and we looked at kind of particular
Yeah.
where the Revolution goes bad in year two, where it gets nasty.
1793, 1794-ish.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not the French Revolutionary historian, and my undergraduate course was many, many years ago. I'll leave that in your hands.
But everyone, for this week, will get a little bit of an introduction to the events of that
Absolutely.
revolution
Absolutely.
through a documentary.
Through a documentary video, which
Yeah.
is we only have, is this the only video full documentary video we use in this course? I think it is, isn't it?
For the moment, although we might add others in the course.
No, but it's our kind of basic reading for the week. It's
Yeah.
the only time we actually do that. We chose that for a very particular
Yeah.
reason. It's a good documentary that tells you what happened, gives you the basic story of the revolution, but it makes very effective use of historians in the documentary, and those are historians who are presenting you with different viewpoints
Right.
on the French Revolution and particular events within the French Revolution,
Yeah.
how to interpret them, their significance, their meaning, why it was a turning point or not a turning
Right.
point. And you can get a good flavor of how historians debate these issues and how they assign relative importance or significance of an issue that we've dealt with in our toolbox in the past,
Yes.
in thinking about the story of the French Revolution and understanding the broader significance of that.
So thinking about history as an interpretive act.
Absolutely.
And that's what every one of us in every week, both us as instructors and the students, have been practicing interpretation.
Absolutely.
So
So we have our own big question. They're answering a series of questions here, and we
Yeah.
have our own big question this week.
yeah, it's in part a big question and a big challenge because, well, first of all, the question: what did British and French writers in the 1790s, late 1780s and early 1790s,
At the time of the Revolution.
at the time of the early Revolution, think about and how did they make sense of the French Revolution? That's the question, and the way we're going to get every one of you to try to answer that question is by using both close reading and distant reading. We've been reading...
As we are in our assignments.
Yes. So every week so far, in one way or another, unless we have a special workshop which doesn't require it, we've been practicing close reading. In fact, even the transcription exercise itself is an exercise in close reading.
Yeah.
When you have transcribed those
Word by word.
yeah, you're reading closely. It's a different kind of reading, but so you're practicing close reading of the shorter documents. That's when you're reading both the French and the English documents. But also, there's two very long digitized documents, and those are by Mary Wollstonecraft and Edmund Burke, both British writers writing about the French Revolution. For this part of the reading, everyone needs to use Voyant tools that we learned about in the workshops for this module, and you have to try to make sense of those documents. What can you learn about the worldviews of Wollstonecraft and Burke, and what can you learn about their interpretations of the revolution as one way of thinking about worldviews.
And these are two people who view the revolution very differently.
One's a supporter in many ways of the revolution, and one is definitely a critic. Can you figure that out from your use of buoyant tools? That's one challenge right there.
That's a good one.
And that's an important practice for the final project in which everyone is going to be reading and analyzing the transcribed documents on abolition, documents that debate abolition and take different views about abolition and about slavery. So that's one challenge related to the French Revolution that has an important opportunity for you to practice skills related to the final project in the course. You can also think about not just the worldviews of the authors in relationship to the French Revolution, but you can think about their views about religious questions, maybe their views of the monarchy that's related to the big question of the French Revolution. But in an earlier week in Module 3, we introduced the concept of gender. Mm-hmm. And everyone can think about what Wollstonecraft and Burke or Price or Deguche think about the ideal roles of men and women, or kings and queens. And that's related to the image that we have behind us.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, so just to briefly look back at last week, we looked at the American Revolution, we looked at the limits of that notion of all men are created equal,
right.
We the people, all those kinds of bottom-up notions of how power works in society that the American Revolution expressed. French Revolution has very similar ideals, very similar principles at work, and they too grapple with limits. And this is a set of images from playing cards from the Revolutionary era.
Yeah.
And the playing cards were designed to highlight dimensions of thinking and practice during the French Revolution. And here we see ones that point to marriage, the right of divorce,
right.
and the other one pointing to the issue of race and the freedom of colored peoples,
right.
peoples of color. And of course, they're primarily thinking of slaves here. So we can see some course themes emerging there of an emerging liberal set of ideals, but also how it impacts women, also how it impacts minority peoples, ethnic minorities, slaves, and so on, how that gets applied more broadly. But just to run with your sense of gender here, we can also see in these documents how gender ideals influence their thinking.
On a wide range
of subjects, completely. And we can apply this in all kinds of different dimensions. But here this week, we've got 2 men and 2 women writing about these subjects. And so there's a dimension of gender there. How does their gender influence their thinking? But we can also see, even within that they mobilize ideas, they mobilize metaphors, they mobilize beliefs and assumptions in different ways. And you can see gender influencing that thinking as well. And so it's really about how people's gender identities influence how they think about these big issues and how those then get shaped because of that. So gender is a really interesting conceptual framework to use to think about lots of things, including big topics like the French Revolution.
And so do your best to use buoyant tools to read the bigger texts by Wollstonecraft and Burke, and use your skills of close reading to read the shorter texts by Price and Deguche.
I think there's lots of possibilities there for really rich discussion.
Yeah, we're looking forward to your analysis in the forums.